Hi, welcome to the Road to Rich podcast. This is episode 2, and I am super excited today to have as my guest Allan Branch with me today. And man, this is a really great because there's so many things that I want to talk to you about, Allan, that it ties to the whole message of the show, man. And this is about entrepreneurs, right? And it's lessons that we've learned and things that we've come across through entrepreneurship. And there's so many things that you've had your hands on through your career, man. It's awesome. But you know, one thing I kind of want to start talking to you about is, you know, downtown is something that's meaningful to me. And, you know, you were the earliest of adopters in downtown, and you put your faith in downtown when nobody was doing it. And where did that come from, man? Like, where do you think that your vision for downtown kind of kicked in before anybody else, man?
Never underestimate a foolish endeavor. Ignorance, right? I don't know. Where did that come from? So kind of going backstory, we had sold a couple software companies. I have a software company background, and my wife and I sold a couple software companies in 2015 and 16. We had some money, and we were actually looking at moving away from Panama City. We were like, should we even be here? You know, my family was here, my parents, but we didn't have a big friend circle, and we didn't have any big hobbies here. And we were kind of like, maybe we just move away because there's not much here. And well, before we do that, let's buy some real estate. You know, and I, you know, being in software, you can live anywhere you want to. I had no local clients, and we're doing consulting, so it would behoove me to live in a larger city. And so we were like, okay, let's buy some real estate. And then we bought a little quadplex, a little 4-unit apartment complex in Millville, a little single-family home on 19th Street. And then I noticed downtown just had really odd pricing. And I was thinking, I'm always really interested in the genesis story of things that work. Like, you know, and I think most people are like when they say, look, here's the garage that Apple started in. Yeah. And, you know, like, here's the room that the rock band, and you're like, like the genesis story is very interesting to me of things. And so we were looking at downtown, the pricing was $10 a square foot. And we're like, well, why is that
crazy?
You know, is
you think
that,
about it now, it's crazy.
Yes, no, these are brick buildings. Yeah. And we weren't the first people to invest. There were lots of other people, but they didn't do it in a style of community revitalization. Of like, we have to do it together. Let's get a lot of people. And I noticed that. So I noticed, even my dad was like, don't buy downtown. Other people have tried it. Other people have invested. And I would say, well, if I do it, how would I do it differently? And, it can't be about me. Culture shift and culture change and investing and changing isn't about one person. One person will fail. One person can be the martyr. Yeah. And I don't want to be the martyr investor. And so when you start studying towns, you see them, they all go blighted in mostly the same way. The mall comes in, you know, all that stuff. And then they kind of get revitalized in the same way. Locals get other locals to invest, and they do it together. And outside investors get run out of town because you don't know us, and how dare you come into our town and tell us what we need. Yeah. And so, we just followed the patterns of success in other towns, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, Winter Park, Winter Garden, Sanford, you know, those kind of places. And so we kind of had a model of what works. And I also looked at stories that didn't work and what happened in those stories.
So when the first thing I remember you buying downtown was your house, right? Yeah. And it was the old auto repair garage that's behind History Class now. Like, did you kind of see that when you purchased that and had that in mind? Did you even imagine where we would be today?
No.
That? I mean,
and so we bought it as $10 a square foot, $30,000 building. Now we put $500,000 into it, but originally when we bought that building, I thought $30,000. You know, we had a bunch, that's some decent amount of money, and if I was like, well, we could just buy this building and build it out for like 120, keep it one story, and it's like it's a really cheap house downtown. Yeah. And even originally when I saw it in the MLS, I was like, something's wrong. It's a typo or something. Surely downtown's not this low. And I thought it was a tear down, and we walked into it, and it was stuck on the outside, and I noticed there was brick on the inside of the walls. I thought it was a stick-built building, and I was like, if there's brick on the inside, that's a full brick wall building. Yeah. Because we're used to in modern construction it being a brick veneer. And I'm like, that doesn't compute. And it's kind of a cool on the little triangle. And Tim Whaler.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Tim Whaler, my partner in history class, said this could be a brewery. And it would have been a really cool brewery because it's got very high ceiling. Yeah. And I was like, no, this is, I want to live here. And
But I want to live next to a brewery.
well, I had not even gotten that far. There was a lot less strategy. I mean, from a 30,000 view, you could be like, oh, how strategic of you to want to live by. No, it was all just more like.
You say that, but I think you living in downtown in the heart of these investments that you've made has given you a pulse on what's happening.
Yeah.
That I think some people maybe that don't live in a downtown area or that aren't down here in a frequency that you are. Maybe don't see quite the same way.
It's my neighborhood, and you see the problems. You're the squeaky wheel. Greenville, South Carolina has a very similar story to us, and their downtown had a person that came into it first, and his name was Courtney. And Courtney was a pain in the ass. And Courtney, because he was spotting problems that no one else saw, and he was the first one downtown. He's putting a coffee shop in that's still there today. And Courtney was a pain in the butt. And the new mayor came in, Knox White, and said, listen, Courtney's here to help. He's trying to build this neighborhood up. We should listen to him. But no, it really wasn't some strategic vision. It's much more like, I've realized there's an analogy of a Roomba vacuum cleaner being stuck in the corner of a room, bouncing in the corner, and eventually I turn and I find that open carpet, baby, and I just
start going.
And then I hit another corner. But no, we bought that house, and we thought I've always wanted to live in sort of a creative kind of house that feels creative.
Yeah, for sure.
It does. Yeah, it's kind of a cool spot. It turns normal though after a while, and it was fun going from Kings Point, which is sort of suburbia. And working at home and being like not knowing my neighbors and not engaging them. But now it's like living in a little village where you see the town wake up and you see it go to bed. And these are all public spaces. So like I'll go for a walk at midnight, or if I can't sleep at 2 a.m, I'll just go for a walk. And I'm walking around downtown. There's nobody there. And it's kind of this weird feeling of like, this is a public. It's like going in someone's living room when they're not there. It's like, well, this is kind of weird. But we like living downtown. It is different. And we didn't know we would like living in an urban setting until we were traveling a lot in the 2015, 16, 17. And we had an apartment in Park Slope, Brooklyn. We would get an apartment for 2 or 3 weeks in these different cities and we'd just kind of move in. And we were in a 4-story walk-up, and within a week, we knew the bagel guy. We knew the coffee guy. Yeah. And it was kind of cool bumping into people, the 4-story walk-up that you'd see, and we got to know people.
Yeah, for sure.
In a better way than we did in Kings Point. Yeah. Faster. And we were like, I kind of like that. Yeah. Working at home is fun for a while. Yeah. And then you're like, I got to get out of here. And so I kind of like the idea of living in an urban environment.
Socially engaging, you know. I mean, you got the boxing club right next to you. I mean, there's activity, especially now. Yeah. I mean, when you move there, not as much. But now there's activity all the time, even during the middle of the week, you know. It's
crazy, and it's surreal. I never thought downtown would come back like it is. Yeah. Even last week, I was leaving the house on a Saturday. I'm like, holy crap, look at all these people. Yeah. They're everywhere. And they're like, people like this? I like it. I didn't realize. And even with history class, I was always like, I like this. Is anybody else going to like it? Because you don't know. You think you design something the way you like it, and you're like, you like it too? I like this too. Right? Let's go. And so, it's crazy how fast it's bounced back. We never had any. I never had any aspiration that this would. I was like, well, okay, if we just break even on these investments and just as long as they pay the note and we don't go bankrupt.
Yeah, then eventually when I bought this building and the building next door, in my mind, I was looking at 20, 30 years down the road, and we are so much further than I ever imagined we would be. And it's incredible, man. I remember having that aha moment, like, oh my God, it's a Tuesday and we're having a Star Wars event downtown and there's 1,000 people down here doing it. Yeah. I remember that light bulb clicking in my head, like, oh my God, we're on our way, you know? Yeah. And it was a great feeling like, hey, this is way ahead of wherever I thought it would be. Yeah. I think we're a good 10 years beyond when I bought these buildings in 2018, 2017, we're a good 10 years ahead of where I thought we would be. And a lot of that is folks like you and Chris Kramer and Wattenberger and the Bergs and us buying stuff and putting local energy and local enthusiasm into those things. And it's not big box. None of it is, right?
Yeah, and there's 3 dozen other people too that should be mentioned.
Yeah. That just scratches the surface 100%. On some of those,
and so I get so much credit in any team. You get so much, the leadership or whoever, the loudest voice, the biggest person, whoever it is, gets more credit than they deserve. I always have. And so But that was kind of the point, was I knew I didn't have enough money to buy the whole downtown and start every business. And it had to be other people. The joke actually was with Chris Kramer. I said, if this doesn't work, I'm going to be bankrupting all my friends. Because I'm like, come on, let's buy some more buildings, come on. And because it was a foolish endeavor. And it worked out, you know, luckily. And so the best revitalization comes from the locals, and because we build what we want in our neighborhoods. And that's what, in any neighborhood, that's the kind of growth that you want. The idea comes from the neighborhood, investment comes from the neighborhood.
And it's authentic too, man. I think it's authentically us. And I have lived in Panama City since 2000, and I had never felt until the last 5 years that our identity was expressed somewhere. And downtown and St. Andrews feel like us, right? And I had never felt like we had an identity quite like we do now. And you get it, and there's an authenticity to what we are and who we are.
Sure.
And you feel it when you walk down the street.
Yeah.
And, you know, you investing in that, I know you don't want to take credit for it, man, but if you hadn't got that ball rolling and gotten involved in the things that you do, the momentum wouldn't have gotten to that point. So I do thank you for that, man.
Sure,
I sincerely appreciate
thank you.
You guys and all the other investors in downtown, because, man, when we bought these buildings, people thought it was crazy.
Crazy. Oh, yeah, when we moved downtown, people thought we were crazy.
And now
too.
nobody thinks I'm
Nobody
crazy.
thinks you're crazy.
Right?
Yeah. And that's why I like the Genesis story, because, you know, in real estate, they say buy low, sell high. What does buying low actually look like? It looks like nobody wants a thing. And when you buy it, you look crazy. But the more stories you watch, there's actually a Porsche collector in LA named Magnus. He has this long, crazy, he does like vintage jeans. And there's so many stories like that where he says, I bought this cool warehouse when it was hookers and needles and, you know.
Sounds like here.
Yeah. And so, like, but that's the story. You talk to Gretchen Peters, who's a singer-songwriter. She bought in Germantown in Nashville. And she's like, oh, yeah, I got this incredible space now. But it wasn't so incredible when we bought it.
Yeah.
It was a place that no one wanted to go. And so that story you hear so often. And the towns and the areas go from blighted to not blighted in the exact same way. The artists come in, the artists buy buildings, and they put art out.
Yeah.
And then the community rallies around it.
Yeah.
Every story of every eclectic neighborhood is the exact same.
It really feels great to see where things are at. And I tell you, man, when you came to downtown 20 years ago, it was depressing.
Oh, it was.
You know, and stuff couldn't survive. And now it's a place where people want to be and businesses want to be.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I'm excited for you to take some of those steps that you're doing. And, you know, for anybody that doesn't know your background, you know, you've had successful software companies, you co-owner of History Class, co-owner of El Weirdo, amongst other things. You've wrote books, and now you're running for mayor, man. And I am pumped that you're doing it.
Thank you.
Because I think that there's so many experiences that you've had through your journey of entrepreneurship that have put you in this position to be ready for what you're taking on.
Ooh.
I do.
Am I ready? That's a great question.
And I know you and I have talked about that kind of stuff.
Kind of like saying, are you ready to be a parent? When you have no kid, you're like, I'm ready. And then you have the kid, you're like, I'm not ready.
Once you have the kid and you're holding the kid, you just, it kind of clicks in and you work at it. And you know what to do, and you don't always make right decisions, but you try.
Sure.
And I know you're going to try, man. I see it every day out of you. So I do appreciate that about you, and I'm very excited for that.
I'm excited and terrified. The idea of mayor is public failures and public scrutiny and you know, even campaigning where, you know, we're 14 days out from, well, actually 10 days out from early voting, and you feel like a punching bag. Yeah. And you're just like, I'm here to be a punching bag. But, you know, we're all in the search for meaningful work. I think it's a humanistic characteristic that you want to have legacy. I don't want a statue. I don't want a road named after me. I don't want a park named after me. I want my time being well spent.
I would like a cocktail at your cocktail bar named after me, if that's okay.
That's
all I really
What's that
want.
guy's name again?
I want to be on the menu.
Just like your name misspelled. It's like,
but, you know, I do want to ask you about that because, you know, when you started this, I know you mentioned that you didn't necessarily have this vision, but how have your motivations for the things that you're doing in downtown, how are they different today than when you started those investments?
Ooh, motivation. I think early on, there was such a fear. I mean, you got to think when History Class opened, even 809 Harrison right over here. Before the wave of momentum happened, it was much more foolish. It was like, these numbers do not make sense. No one wants these buildings to rent. Yeah. This is crazy. And now it's like, momentum is intoxicating, right? It is magical to see things working, but there's a fear of once you do that, you think you like golden eggs. And that's where people fail too, is the projects get bigger and bigger, and then they go, oh, that's not a golden egg. I guessed wrong. But it's exciting to me. You know, I'm an offensive lineman, and you can tell by my size. I'm 6'3.5", 330 pounds. And I played football in high school and in college. And the offensive line is the only position in sports, in all of sports, that has no stats. You have zero stats. Your stat is an association to the running back's yardage. Your stat is an association with the passing yards of the quarterback and the team score. So your goal is to actually try to hurt the person across from you in an effort to open a hole so someone else can run through untouched, get yards or score, and be like, look at me. And you go, you're the best running back ever. Congratulations. And you're lucky at the end of the game if a quarterback or running back says, and I want to thank my offensive line. That's the best that you get. So I am geared to do thankless jobs in chaos just for progress. All I care about is progress. I don't care if I'm digging ditches. I just want to do it faster and better tomorrow. And so I'm just, I don't know if that's nature or nurture or what it is, but I like progress, and I'm here to put the work in, and I don't mind if it's a grind.
And, you know, with your football analogy, teams can't be successful without a good offensive line, right? And a quarterback, if the quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball, you are never going to be successful, right? And so having a great offensive line and having people willing to put in that time is key to any team like that.
Agreed.
And, you know, I know that, you know, you and I have talked before about like Chuck Purdue and things that he's done at the tax collector's office. And I am blown away with the progress of what kind of team Chuck has put in place. And that's one thing that's kind of stood out with you too, is I've seen you put together teams for your businesses, and those have been highly successful. You find people that fit what you're doing and fit the things that complement you and the things that you do well. You know, if you're elected mayor of the city, you know, how do you look towards trying to improve teamwork and building of that within that municipality versus the kind of things that you've done?
Yeah, well, it'd be easy or romantic to think that the mayor has the ability to replace staff, and they don't. So you have to dance with the people that the person that brought you. And a lot of times, you know, Chuck's a great example of turning over an office with culture shift. And so how do you shift culture? I think most people like progress, and you start with small wins. And there's a fear that people have when you buy a company or start changing things. The job is disrupted. The workflow that they know is disrupted. And so it has to start with small wins. I think if you're talking about entrepreneurship, building teams is about finding the right lead dogs. And everything trickles down from the manager, which I call a lead dog. And for us, you know, my partner Tim Whaler is an amazing partner, and we found Dan Magner. And Dan was homecoming king at Mosley, and that sounds really funny. But I'll tell you why I love it. And he also was a chef that worked in food trucks. And so two things that I noticed about managers in any business is they need to be like, what is a leader? There's someone who has warmth and competency. Right? That's what, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the funniest, but someone who's warm, people like them and they believe them and they want to do things with them. What's a homecoming king? Someone who people like, doesn't create drama, and they get along with. Remember lots of names. So that's a quality, right? It doesn't mean they're the most handsome or the smartest. It means they're very likable.
That's why people always want to hug Dan.
It's 100%. He can be such a curmudgeon sometimes, and you still just want to give him a hug. And then he worked in food trucks. And so the other sort of kiss of death that you find in the restaurant industry is, well, in any industry, when an artist, you see it with brewing, you see it with baking, or you see it with any artistry, is a lot of times when the artist, the chef in this instance, gets to design their kitchen, they go all out, and brewers do this. They go all out in equipment, and they overspend. But Dan had been in food trucks enough to understand compromising.
And efficiency.
Right.
And,
And so, you know, just finding interesting personalities like that, and so, you know, I've hired a lot of people. I've made a lot of hiring mistakes. But it'll be interesting in the city to see how you can shift some of the culture. There's a lot of great employees up there, and they're way better than they were before the hurricane.
How have you learned about hiring through your experiences? I know you mentioned that, you know, that you made mistakes. What have you learned about hiring through the years?
Oh, well, I would say that the marketing you put out is often not for your clients. It's for the people that you're hiring.
I agree.
And I remember Dan early on, he was like, we're going to have a hard time hiring. I said, no, we're not. I said, the marketing is like the light and moths will come.
Yeah.
Moths are the employees.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the next employee on there would be Fontella. And Fontella came because people were tired. People are tired of working in the restaurant industry at a certain age. And they go, this is not treated like a career.
Yeah,
We're
it's not,
used and
yeah.
abused, and we're expected to work 60 hours. And I want meaning. I don't want to just serve food and serve drink.
Yeah.
I want something meaningful. And so we got Fontella. And so Fontella was looking for that change. She wanted to be a part of something. And she saw that this was more than just beer and food. This was about serving a community and telling the stories. And so 100%, people are looking at your marketing not necessarily just to buy your products, but how you treat other people and all those things.
Yeah,
too.
for sure. That last episode, Kevin Elliott and I were talking about that a great deal. And we were talking just about how, social platforms echo who you are as a business and the culture and what you guys are about. You guys do a fantastic job of echoing that through what you do online. And it's very evident of what kind of people are behind there. And you're right. When people think about where they want to work at, that tells everybody what kind of place they're going to.
Yep.
And you can tell a lot.
Social signaling. It's people like us do things like this. So like if I watch your social media, I would see them celebrating people's birthdays and all this sort of stuff you guys do. They dress up your office. So it's people like us, people that work at this marketing company. We honor each other. We joke with each other. We tease each other. We celebrate Star Wars. We celebrate people's weirdness. And so people like us do things like this.
Well, very cool. That's admirable, the kind of teams that you've put together, and I hope that you're given the opportunity to try to make some of those meaningful changes at the municipal level that way. So you have so many different things on your plate. How do you balance your work life, man? I mean, like you're juggling already so many things, and then you're taking on something else that is pretty significant as far as the time commitment. Is that teams? Is that your family support? I mean, how do you
All
work
the
that?
above. And there's no balance. And even today, I've been feeling bad because my kids have been getting very little time with me, and I've been getting very little time with them. And so most of my time's been going to the mayoral race. I would say it's a number of things. One, everything that I'm involved in looks bigger from the outside. Like we have 170 employees across these things, but I am not working with 120 software people. I'm working with a team of like 7.
Yep.
The other teams have new people that are running the products and design, and maybe they bring me into a conversation here or there. But I don't build companies where I have to be in the day-to-day of everything.
Yeah, you can't.
And so what I do is I jump from chaos to chaos. Yep. Even History Class and El Weirdo, people will say, what do you got? Oh, what's on tap? Oh, I have no idea. Where are the cups at? I don't know. Who's the vendor for this? Beats me. I don't do the day-to-day.
That's why I got Dan.
Right. That's why we have a whole manual book of every vendor and things. And so I'm good at building a team. And then with software companies specifically, I'm good at getting the revenue to about 5 million or anywhere where whenever an org chart needs to come up, that's when I get out.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at building the customer support department, talking to the customers, getting the salesperson, hiring the developers, building that team up. But once the teams can self-sustain, there's leadership on each team, it no longer needs me. And so that's when I jump to the next thing of chaos. So like even right now, I'm only working on, although there's 4 software companies and 120 employees, I'm only working on 1 really. The other ones are just now I'm stepping back a little bit from software. I'm going to be getting on part-time in those companies. And so I'm kind of feeling like I'm leaving those partners behind. I feel kind of bad for that. And then the History Class El Weirdo it's about an hour and a half of my time, really a week at the most.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
1 or 2 problems might bubble up to me that Tim and I need to discuss. But what you do when you're working with people is you set rails on a decision, policy of a decision. Come back to me if you need collaboration or a sanity check, or you want someone just to double check what you're about to do.
Yeah. I don't think that comes natural to some people who are used to doing all those things. I think you kind of have to learn how to delegate and how to trust, right?
Yeah.
And
here's the sign. If you had other people do your homework in school,
yeah,
that's basically says like, do my homework if you can. Let me copy your homework.
Yeah.
And then you gotta be okay with being like, oops, I did screw up question 4. So when you delegate out a whole lot of stuff, you have to be ready to apologize.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the only way you can truly grow, though, because you can only do so much as one person. You think about any person that is a millionaire, billionaire, and they can't do all those things themselves. They have to get to where they are delegating things to people and then making decisions that are on an owner and investor level that way.
Right.
And that's been a mindset change that as I've gone through business, I've had to constantly look at a role that I have in the business and change it over time to evolve to a certain point so we can grow.
Correct.
And that's been tricky to learn.
Yeah, and you might ruin the business. Like I had a programmer one time say, I love programming so much, I want to build a big consultancy. I'm like, well, you're going to never program again.
Yeah.
So you better love managing people and apologizing and doing sales and figuring things out and doing paperwork. Because if you love to be an artist, you love that certain thing, do not scale it.
You'll get out of it. I used to love building websites. I don't even touch anything anymore.
Right.
And trust me, we're way better off having those smart, awesome people do it than me, because we're producing things that are well beyond my capabilities, which is a good thing.
Sure.
You know, we've gotten past that point. But if you love doing something, you're right. You could easily work yourself out of your own job.
Oh yeah, like if you even Tim, a great example. Tim loves to brew beer. He doesn't brew beer anymore. He runs the team that brews the beer. Yeah. Right. Yeah. He handles all the tax stuff. Right. And so he kind of ruined his hobby, turning it into a business.
Yeah. I mean, tax stuff is fun.
Yeah. It's jumping from problem to problem. You know, entrepreneurs, I have to remind myself, is oftentimes I'll be doing work, and then some crisis will come in of like some big problem, and I'll go, oh God. The crisis is the job. Doing the work is actually the crisis management. And I always feel like with entrepreneurs, your job is to solve, or leadership is to solve 2 or 3 or 4 or 1 crisis per day. Yeah. So often that looks like being like, oh, another one. That's the job.
Literally what you do.
That is the job.
And regardless of what your business is, that's true with any entrepreneur or business owner, that you're ultimately just solving problems.
That's all it is. You're fixing.
You know, you go home at night and then you hope to God that there's no additional problems.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Your job is to apologize when someone on the team has screwed everything up, and you're like, oh, I'm here to apologize, or to make a big expensive decision. I hope it falls the right way, or research something. But you're building systems. And so, I don't know. I kind of like doing that. Maybe it's ADHD. I know that a lot of entrepreneurs have dyslexia and learning disabilities, because we had to learn a certain way. But I like building teams. I don't have a love of software, and really, I like the iterative process of it. Excuse me. And the speed of software development. But I'm not necessarily in love with the technicalities of
the hands-on and stuff like that.
I love the decisions and talking to the customers and building teams and moving quickly.
Yeah, we were talking last time about it's almost like you're a producer and not necessarily the person shooting the film.
Rick Rubin doesn't touch the he's a tastemaker.
Yeah, I saw a thing the other day where he came up with the intro to one of Jay-Z's songs, and there was a video of him coming up with it, and Jay-Z sitting there in the chair in front of him. But Rick Rubin's amazing at what he does, and you know, he's not hands-on like that. He's a conceptual guy, and
he brings out the best in other people.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
And so I often feel like that's the job of leadership: is you find someone's strength, and a lot of times it's hidden, and your job is to lift it up. And I had a business partner who passed away that did that to me. Yeah. And he actually had this really, really great thing he did. We were doing a project we were hoping to get a project with McKinsey and Company, which is a huge business consulting firm. And we had flown to New York, and I was like, we got to get some nice suits. Yeah. He said, no way we're not getting nice suits, because then we look like them. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, we want to fit in. He said, no. Mm. We want to not look like them, because that's when they know they need us. Yeah. And so what he did in me is brought out this, I'm not saying brash, but more confidence of who I am, of being a little bit of an oddball. Yeah. And being like, it's okay to not fit in, because that's what makes you special. Yeah.
And I love the way that you do things, and to a point, it's almost irreverent at times, the way that you do it. And I did want to ask about that, because you have a book, and it's called "Become Badass at Sales Without Sounding Like a Douche," right? And I haven't read it yet, but I saw it when I was looking up some stuff for you for the podcast. Tell me about the book, man.
So one of my favorite. I gotta start purging things offline, so I should be done. So we had a blog, lesseverything.com/blog. It's not even mobile responsive. That's how old the website is. It's still like full screen desktop.
Got the American flag GIF on the bottom, the counter.
We blogged on it every day, and we were blogging. We had like 230,000 readers on the RSS feed. And we were writing a blog post every single day about business and life. And it was kind of unusual in like 2008 through 2012 to be blogging that much about business and being that open. And I read a blog post by Jason Fried of 37 Signals, which is Basecamp. And he said, sell your byproduct. Henry Ford, the part of the byproduct of steel manufacturing was charcoal. So he started Kingford Charcoal. King Ford. Yeah. And so, but their idea was selling ebooks and things that you're learning. And so we started compartmentalizing are blog posts that of categories of like, hey, you know what, we've done a lot of blog posts on sales, so let's categorize those up and make those into an ebook. And so and even sometimes when we sell an ebook, we would say, these are the exact same blog posts that you can read for free, and people would still buy it. And I think that book is even like 12 pages, and it even says like, this is 12 pages, and it's like it's $87. And if you want your money back, we'll give it to you. I've never had anyone. I mean, I think we probably only sold like $25,000 worth of them over the course of 15 years. And it's not even hardly linked anywhere anymore. But we sold a lot of ebooks and did really well. And that helped fund some of the software companies. We were self-funded.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I just realized that, I mean, even with our accounting software, less accounting, this is back in software company days when people try to be very corporate. I had our customer support, like 1-800 number we had a Mr. T impersonator. It was like, he's like, I pity the fool who uses QuickBooks. And like, I wanted a cease and desist from Mr. T. I want all the error pages had his face on. I was like, I would love a cease and desist. Because then I'd be like, oh, Mr. T. And then you write a blog post called Mr. T tried to sue us.
Hell yeah.
Right? And so when you don't have much money, the constraint of being poor forces you to be creative.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And so like people go like, oh, why did you hand build all this stuff at History Class? I'm like, because we're poor. We had to build everything ourselves, right?
Well, it gives it character, man. I mean, you're talking to a guy who named his building Nakatomi Plaza, man, because I'm a dumbass and that's what I do, right? But to me, it makes it fun and interesting and different, and it stands out.
And I always thought, people think sales funnels are like this, like this. I think they're like this, right? Which is, if you would come to this building and rent, and it was just called Harrison Avenue Office Suites, and then they meet you and they go, this guy likes Die Hard. What a wackadoodle! I'm out of here. Good. We should scare them first. We want to if you're thinking about office space and that's what makes you not want to rent here, you're not going to be fun to be around. We don't want you, right? And even if it annoys you, go away. The people that like it, you're trying to draw people in, right? And so there's a difference in being like, too weird. I'm not. I want to expose
there's a happy medium there somewhere, and it's
this
funny.
is who I am.
We do the same thing next door at my marketing firm, to where we have signs on each of the exits, and one of them's the Toodaloo guy from Hangover. The other one's Ron Burgundy saying "Stay classy," and then we got Hasselhoff on the back going "Auf Wiedersehen." And if you get those things and somebody comes in and has a meeting with us, and when they go to leave, sometimes they notice the signs, and we know there are people because they're like, oh, I love The Hangover, And so we're like, all right, you're our person.
It's filtering of the group of people that you want to work with.
Yeah.
Right. And so, people like us laugh at things like this.
Yeah.
So I love all that stuff. If you were trying to go after a company that did like Wix, and you wanted $1 billion company, you might have to dumb that down some. But most of us aren't trying to build companies that everyone loves.
No, it's an authentic experience that I think we're trying to. And you do the same thing with your businesses, man. There is nothing like them out there in the world. And you go to History Class, you go to El Weirdo. Those things are so authentically you guys that that really stands out with people. Because I tell people, if they're visitors in town, I'm like, you got to go down and check out History Class and see stuff, because it tells you about Panama City, and it feels different than any place you're going to go to. Yeah. And so that's been, I think very cool to see those things develop in our area that way. And I think people here that live in town appreciate it, man. So.
Well, thank you. It's foolish endeavors that have currently worked out.
Yeah, it turned out okay.
The end of the story has yet to be written.
No, but
shortly after a podcast called Road to Rich,
we found out about that book
everything.
Yeah, well, I think certainly there's a lot of really good momentum for things that we're doing here, and that's why I'm excited that you're trying to do the things that you're doing with the election for mayor coming up. Is because I think we're such a critical point in our city to where we have to make good decisions on things, and we have to make right decisions and things that are forward facing, that we're not stuck in this attitude of not wanting to do things. And I think that you are so open-minded to those things that you're the right person for the job, man.
Well, thank you.
And, it is one of those things. When we had the hurricane, I felt like before the hurricane, there were so many people that didn't want things to change. And the hurricane forced us into a place where we had to change. It was taken off the table. Yeah. And, fortunately, you had gotten some stuff down here. We had our buildings. There were some other people. And there was momentum going, and it kept that thing going to where now, you get a building that becomes available and people are all over it, and the prices of things have gone up to where you talked about things making sense. We went recently to look at a building, and financially it didn't make sense because the building value had gone up so much, which is great. That's a really good problem, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
There's 2 buildings on Harrison Avenue. I'm like, that's expensive.
yeah,
And we're
but I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
That means I've made a good investment. You know,
Yeah, it's wild. Natural disasters are these sort of galvanization moments that can either break you apart as a community or galvanize you harder and tighter.
Yeah.
And I think Hurricane Michael was that moment of, if we don't try to revitalize this town now, then what are we waiting for? Like 10 years and some arbitrary New Year's Day or something? This is the moment that we do something. And if not us, the people right here, then who? Who's going to come fix this town?
It's literally the greatest opportunity we're going to have in our lifetimes to put our thumbprint on this town. And, it's going to change generations of, I want my kids to stay here and have the option to be here and want to be here. And I feel like it's my job to help put that in place, and if I'm not putting in the work and being involved in things in the community, and I'm not putting my money where my mouth is, like you've done, like, what am I doing,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the success story that we want, which is people moving here because it brings them closer to success, and people not having to move away because there's better opportunities in other places.
Yeah.
And I have friends that have moved away, and, they still kind of snicker here and there, and then they come back home and they're like, oh man, this has actually gotten way nicer. And I'm like, I told you could be a part of something.
And if we can make this a business friendly environment for small and, family owned businesses to open up things within the city, I think we're going to go to the next level, man. Because it's, frankly, when I opened, my office next door, there were so many difficulties I ran into. And I know you've experienced the same thing with your stuff. Like, we can make that easier. And, what do you think about ways that we can work better with the public to help business grow?
Oh, how long is this podcast? 2.5 hours?
I think you got a certain time you got to be somewhere.
I think Chuck Purdue has the best. He says that when he got elected into the tax collector office, there was 1,200 things he wanted to work on his list. God. And then after all these years, he has 1,800 things he wants to work on. And so really change in those situations, the inertia of an organization and sort of steering the ship in another direction comes through small wins. And not just, and so when you're collecting feedback on something and you're trying to iterate on something, you have to celebrate little wins and not just look for punishing bad behavior, but lifting up good behavior and showing people what we're trying to want with customer service. So every department, in any business that speaks to a customer is in the customer support department.
Yeah,
and so there's 1,000 little things that I've run across and that you've run across in all the different departments, CRAs, planning and zoning, water department. All the departments need to be tuned up a little bit. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, this is staff that the vast majority are there because they love this place. They're not there because it's the most lucrative job, or certainly not the most glorious jobs. And they're there because they care. And most people want to do a really good job, whether it's sweeping floors, painting walls, building roofs, whatever it is. People want to do great work, and they need great equipment and tools to do it, and they want to be celebrated and appreciated. And so I think that's all there. And then it's team building, and just like you can buy a coffee shop and have a downward spiral and ruin the place, you can upward spiral from the downward, and that comes through small wins and iterative approaches on processes, people and processes, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's really easy in a campaign, especially as being an incoming candidate, to be like, those guys are idiots and I'm going to fix everything. And then you get elected and they're all like, we don't want to work with you. And so it's this balance of like saying, I want to challenge the status quo, but in like the nicest way and the kindest way, because I know their intention is good.
Yeah, for sure.
We've all had less than desirable experiences. And I've seen other cities and I've approached other cities who have better customer service, so I know we can do it.
And I've always known you to be that way, to where you put a thoughtful approach behind the things you do, and you're respectful to folks when you do that. I know you're going to analytically look at a problem and try and find a solution that makes sense based on facts, and that you've done your research, you've looked at other places. Man, I've seen it hundreds of times from you where you've done that. So I'm just excited for you to maybe apply that to what we're doing, because I think we're just at such a key moment in our history. If we make a good decision on the people that are making these decisions, we're gonna see that impact for generations to come, man. So
I hope so.
I hope everybody gets out and votes.
Yeah, April 22nd.
Yep. Well, and early voting starts April 14th.
April
is that right?
14th, and you know, and I've been saying this story over and over again. What will happen on April 22nd is people say, "I'm not voting April 14th or 15th or 6th," and they'll wait till April 22nd. It'll be rainy. And they'll be a little busy. They'll have to pick their kids up.
Something will happen at work.
Yeah. Then they'll Netflix. They'll be like, Stranger Things 4 comes out or something. And Alan's going to win. He knows a lot of people. And then they'll get done watching the video or whatever it is. And they'll turn the news on and they'll just see me weeping because I lost. And I'll just be crying. And they'll be like, he's so big, but there's so many tears coming out of him. There's snot coming down my face. And it'll be very embarrassing for me. Yeah. So please show up and vote.
I don't want to see you cry.
No,
so,
don't.
I'm just one guy, man. But I wholeheartedly support what you're doing, man. And I have complete confidence that if you get in that position, you're going to make an impact that's very positive for the city. And, I can't encourage enough of y'all to get out and vote for Allan. Please make sure you do. It is critical in our time in this city that we make these good decisions. So please get out there and vote.
Yeah, please do.
Yep. And with that, man, I think we're about out of time. I think you got somewhere else you got to run soon. But man, I certainly appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
I think the world of you and Anna and the things that you guys do every day and your staff and the impact that you do, I could go on and on about all the different ways that you touch this community. But I sincerely appreciate all of those things that you guys do.
Well,
so thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
So, all right, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'd like to also thank Turn Up Studios for hosting our podcast today. Please tune in again and join us next time.